Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Date Your Wife podcast. My name is Garrett J, the founder of Wake Up Warrior, and I'm here with the founder of DKW Styling and the creator of Natural Beaded Rose, the woman and you're listening to the show. You're actually listening to it after we just finished up our BMS convention series with over 700 artists here in Huntington Beach. Even though we're recording this before that
show. It was amazing.
It was amazing.
We nailed it.
In our minds.
No,
all right, so
it's going to be good.
This event's coming up. What is this like as a woman to be in a place where you you have companies that are doing millions and millions and millions of dollars? Your salons are doing millions. Your training companies are doing millions. Your new hairline comes out here in the spring. That's going to do millions. Like, literally, help me understand what this feels like, huh?
It feels
Go
like,
for it.
You know what? It feels good.
What?
But here's what I'll say. Like, I think Cullen actually gave me this parable. He's like, listen, like, don't, because I had a hard time, like, letting go of my businesses and letting them fly and letting them grow.
Mm-hmm.
And he was, like, saying, like, basically, like, don't underestimate the spark. He's like, without a spark or without the creation, like, none of this happens. And it's not, like, just the spark. Like, you can literally, like, light a fire and have it spark and then it can die easy. So I feel like I, like, kept the fire brewing for, like, a while until I was just like, this is exhausting. I need more oxygen here. Like, this is a lot of work. And then it was, like, when I started, like, this past year, like, kind of like letting go and letting it fly, it started to take off, but I kind of got fucked over in other areas of my business because I think I stepped outside too much. Mm-hmm. So I lost the respect of, like, some of my artists and some of my team members and stuff because I was just, like, too far out. So for me, I'm like, okay, because I always had this story in my head of, like, okay, like, you need to work really, really hard in order to create success. And then, like, stepping away, I saw a lot of success happening. But also I realized, like, I need to be in the mix and I need to just, like, balance out my time, because being in the mix doesn't mean I go back to, like, crazy Danielle where I'm working all the time and, like, can't let my baby go. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
So it was like, for me, I'm like, okay, we blew up this year, and I also learned a shit ton about myself. And I realized I need to put my time where it's the most valuable so that I can, like, keep my baby and keep the fire going and let the oxygen get in and, like, let it build and brew. So it feels good and I'm good, but that's where I'm at.
Did you ever anticipate that you as a woman and as wife would end up building 3 brands that would do multiple 7 figures every single year? Did you ever see yourself doing this? Like, was this, like, in your mind back in the day when we first got married? You were thinking, you know what, I'm going to get to a point where...
I think when somebody starts a business, they don't fathom it. Does that make sense? Like, It's like this gut instinct where you're like, yeah, I think I'm an awesome person. Like, you know what I mean? You're like,
yes.
I think I can do this. And it's just like, you have this realization where you're like, I don't know where this is going to go, but I just, in my gut, feel like something's going to happen. But you don't have any business experience, so you literally can't even fathom this company, like, this kind of money. You just, like, have enough courage and belief in yourself that you go.
3 weeks after we finished the BMS event, I have almost 1,500 men at the Hyatt Manchester in San Diego, California for a Warrior Con.
How does that feel?
Well, it's very exciting. The biggest Warrior event we've ever done with guys in person.
Do you feel like you're kind of like where are you going with Warrior? Like, do you feel like you're on this tipping point? Are you going to pump the brakes? Are you like, this is like what?
No, we're going to unify the men in 2019. That's the goal. We're going to unify the men, meaning we're going to tighten up the game again. Warrior Week has, like, been our bread and butter staple. We just finished Warrior Week 54, which is 54 groups of 25 men have graduated from it. In 2019, we have 15 to 18 Warrior Week events happening. I've got 7 full-time trainers inside of that. Like, we have 36 full-time team members of Wake Up Warrior. Like, our online stuff and books and everything have exploded. We've done tens of thousands of sales of the Warrior book. We've had tens of thousands of copies of Be the Man, the book, go out at the same time. And so there's been a lot of stuff that's happened. You know what's interesting, though? When I sit and look at where we're at, I feel like we're actually in a place of...
cleanup?
Yeah, cleanup, which is kind of where we've been in your businesses too. It's just cleaning up and simplifying.
Yeah.
It's like a cleanup.
More is not always more.
No, and it's getting rid of people who don't belong to be here anymore.
Yeah.
Which has been an interesting thing. We've cleaned house in the salon. We've cleaned house inside of BMS. We've cleaned house inside of Wake Up Warrior. We've gone through a process of really cleaning house. I shut down 2 different companies that were very good. Actually, 3, which is crazy to be in a place. We have 3 businesses that were all successfily had already profited $1 million plus.
If they're not worth the stress.
Yeah, they weren't worth the stress, so we shut them down.
Because your time's more valuable.
Yeah. So I think the point here, we're sitting here, is it's not like me and my wife, like, tooting our horns about what we're creating or what we're doing, But it's like understanding that as a couple, there's two principles inside the game of money that took us a long time to to not remember, to actually learn. Remembering would imply that I actually understood it, but I didn't fucking understand this at all, which was this idea of being able to surrender and simplify.
Yes.
Right? Surrender and simplify. So Danielle's talked about surrender.
Yeah.
But let's talk about this inside of the marriage relationship, because you and I have gone back and forth with how we deal with money. There's been times I've made a bunch of money and then you weren't making much. And then there's been times where you were making a bunch of money, I wasn't making much, and now we're both doing well. But the game of surrender from the beginning, like when you remember as like a newly married woman, I have to believe that you were in kind of a, hey, my husband's going to take care of us mode, which was like the entire culture we were raised in, right?
Yeah, when we first got married, I did hair right out of the gate, and I had my own account. I remember, and you had your own account. Like, 'cause,
When we were first married?
yeah, because I remember we didn't really think to do it any other way. We were both working, and we were both independent people, and so when we came together, we kind of kept it that way for a while.
Mm-hmm.
But you always paid the bills and took care of us, and I just kept stockpiling cash, and I was like, this is cool. I got lots of shopping money, and I could just like hang out, and for me, it created like a sense of safety, and I always thought, like, in a relationship, and this is just how I was raised, is like my mom would always say, you know, the husband pays the bills and the wife, if she wants to contribute, can. But, like, I don't know. That was how I was raised. Like, my dad paid the bills. But my mom always worked, too.
Yeah, my mom never. My mom worked her ass off raising kids, but my mom never.
I think
mom had a couple
didn't,
jobs.
my mom didn't want the pressure to have to pay the bills. Like, she worked because she loved it. And but she started, but the thing is she didn't pay the bills, but she paid for their lifestyle quite a bit.
Yeah.
Like, my mom would pay for all the cars, like anytime they wanted to redo the vacations, anytime they wanted to like do stuff in the home, like stuff that my dad's like a super just like chill, simple guy, really good at what he does.
Super conservative.
Yeah. And my mom is less conservative.
She's a little more flamboyant.
I think she wanted nice things in life. And so she married my dad, but she didn't necessarily want a simple life. She wanted nice things. But I think my dad did well, but he was just, my mom would always be like, he's just cheap. Dave's just cheap. And I'm like, he makes good money. He's just super.
He just had other priorities.
Yeah, he didn't care about the nice things. He was just like, I don't care. And my mom wanted all of that. So that's like how they're like, he paid the food, the bills, the mortgage, and she paid for lifestyle, I would say.
Well, and raising of my family, my mom provided a couple times along the way, but with 5 kids, and my mom wanted to stay home, and that was kind of the agreement they had. And so my mom stayed home. My dad worked his ass off, doing a whole lot of different things over the years. And it was just a different game. But all my sisters were raised under the same kind of thing my mom was, which was my sisters are supposed to stay home and take care of the kids. Mm-hmm. And now I have one of my sisters who just graduated from massage school, and she's moving on. She just got married. She was married, divorced, got remarried again to another guy, nice guy. They came to our house for their anniversary or their honeymoon, which was fun. But she's doing a thing, and she sees herself as a producer. Mm-hmm. And then you have my other sister, whose husband does a good job, but it doesn't make enough money to pay the bills. And she is irritated by this as part of the Warrior Woman programs and a bunch of other things we've done. And she's lit her ass on fire and now like is wanting to be a producer. And then we have my oldest sister, Heather, who she's doing the thing like my mom. And I think she's a crazy person for doing it because my sister's like a born producer. Do you think that?
I think
do you
there's
think
a lot
women
of mommy guilt? No, there's this mommy guilt. I think
talk about
they're
this.
They're like, well, how can I work and take time away from my kids if I'm not helping support my family? To make you less crazy, lady.
Yeah.
And who knows where it's going to take you? I think in a way, like if you feel like if you want to pursue those passions and those talents and whatever it is, like it makes you a different and better person. You learn differently than you would be just being a mom. Like, I don't know, in my experience, and I can only speak for my experience, if I was just a stay-at-home mom, I wouldn't be the person I am today, flat out.
No way. I think you'd be fucking insane.
I don't think I'd be insane.
I think you'd be crazy.
I think I'd be less outgoing.
I think you'd drink more.
I think I'm like a shy person, and I'm not like the type of person that's like, oh, I want to volunteer for every little mom's event. And
maybe you would if you didn't have anything to do.
Maybe I would have.
Maybe like room mom of the year.
Yeah, maybe I would have.
Every room mom of the year I know, she doesn't have a full-time job.
Maybe I would have been the best goddamn
cupcake maker of all time. You for sure.
Yep.
You'd be one of our friends.
I don't know.
She is literally like she is
like
amazing.
I will say that me going in,
which is not a bad thing, by the way.
No, I know. I take that back. Maybe I could have been like the best damn version of me as a mom. But with our relationship, with me going into work,
it's made it better.
It's made it better, and I feel like we both have like respect with one another as far as like because we both work, and I don't know. So.
Well, I do know. Like again, I've noticed there's just a trend. There's two trends inside the conversation of money that are very different than when I grew up. Which is one trend is that women see themselves as a vital piece of the production game. Which, interestingly enough, like according to one of our league coaches, Kevin Voisin, who shared a story about this, talking about back in the day. If you think back in the day, the economic engine of life was the home, and the family were the employees. And men and women they lived with their kids back before the industrial age, back in the agricultural age or agrarian age. Like couples and families lived together. Grandma and grandpa lived there, and all the economics of the family was actually taken care of during family day-to-day experience. So
Can I
like
ask
there
you
was
a really direct question right now?
Yes.
If I was just at home,
Yes.
and maybe I was the literally year mom of or school mom of the year, whatever.
Okay.
Do you think? Actually, I can't even ask this question because I've never been in that situation. But I was thinking, like, do you think that you would have looked at me the same, or would you? I don't know. Like,
Let me ask you a direct question.
Okay.
If I had a penis coming out of my forehead, could you look at me the same?
I realize that question was irrelevant because it's a situation we've never been in.
Oh, for sure. But I appreciate you going there. I think the question you're really asking is, if I like, do you find our relationship works because I do both?
Yes.
Yes, and I would say it works better because we do both. Let me come back to my story. Can I come back to my story?
Yeah, I get ADD and I.
It was a great ADD
like
question.
To cut in.
It was a great cut in. So Kevin was sharing this though. Again, he's a big historian buff, historian major. Like used to be a history teacher, so he studies everything history wise. So thank you, Mr. Voisin, for sharing this. But the entire culture was that families worked together, right? Men and women both were producers. There was not a man was the producer, woman was the producer. For literally 500, 600 years, 800 years, families operated where the man and the woman were both responsible for the economic engine of the family. And the kids too, and grandma and grandpa. And this is why families stayed together, because the home was the ATM machine. It was the producing engine. Then the industrial age comes and man separates and men go into warehouses and start working. And they go to the industrial game and they start working. They start working on product lines and working for Ford Motor Company, and the entire industrial complex changes. And there's this rift inside of the fabric of the way a home works. The men get sent off to war, and the women have to support the jobs plus the children while the men are away at war during World War I, World War II. So this rises into an entire other game, which, by the way, I talk about all this inside of Be the Man in the book, but it's all going to make sense in a second. So then World War I and World War II, and the women are actually covering all the workforce, plus raising the children while the men are at war. Then they come back into 1960s and 70s. The feminist movement begins to rise, and they're looking for the women's suffrage and the ability for women to vote, which is fantastic. I agree. The women start looking, saying, hey, we're doing a lot of shit around here. We should probably be given permission to vote and do a lot of other cool stuff and be able to produce how we want and do what we want and have free nipples if we want, which is like a little free the nipple movement, I guess, that happened last year. But so this happens, but there's this crazy game that started occurring, is this rift between men and women, where women started to see themselves as capable of doing all of these things, but there was a message subtly put in there by feminists, which was that women don't need men. And so men and women have been at this war front that's happening, but what I believe is trying to happen right now, and it's exemplified in what Danielle and I are doing, is that with the internet and with the ability to go home-based business and the opportunity to be able to, two parties to be able to actually contribute in a different way without going full-time into an office every day, is that the economic engine and providing of revenue is actually coming back in the home, which is men and women are both being looked at as equal, but not the same, but they're being looked at as equal opportunities to be able to contribute to the family. So this is a long way of saying that in less than about 150 years, it appears that we're heading back. At least the universe is trying to bring this back into a place where men and women see each other as equal producers. And I think that has to do with the conversation of money. And that doesn't mean if you're a stay-at-home mom and you're managing the chaos.
I think there was a lot
CEO.
of pressure on like successful women and like this like you said, the feminist movement, where they've had to be like almost channel this masculine energy and like lost a little bit of their femininity.
Yeah.
And I think like for me, when I had like tapped into that, I was like, I don't know that I want this much stress. So it's even like working as a team to create the same result. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
And it's like, I don't want to do it without a partner. I don't want to do it without a man. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
So, and I think that's probably why it's circling back around, is because there's a lot of strong, powerful women, but they're like, I don't want to do it on my own. Like, I am choosing not to.
Yeah. Well, and I think there's a lot of men that are starting to rise, at least inside the Wake Up Warrior movement, to be okay with that. Like, to be actually more than
And I
okay, to
think
be
for
empowered
men,
by it.
Yeah, I was going to say, and like, there's times where, too, I'm sure, and I feel like this is kind of like you teach this in Warrior, where like, you're like, you need to give your wife that respect and let her lead and take counsel from her. And it's kind of this like ebb and flow and back and forth. And instead, because like in a lot of situations, if I don't respect you and you don't respect me, then this doesn't work.
There's a lot of guys that have a hard time with the idea of their wife working.
Is that a control thing?
For sure. It's also a story, too, because guys get to a place where they're like, well, if my wife's working. I think what it does, too, is it makes a guy feel inadequate. And a lot of the stories is, well, she needs to work because you can't get it done. And you know what? In a lot of cases, in millions and millions of families,
that like for you, like it made, like I feel like it could make a guy rise more, or like,
yes,
I don't know.
Well, in a lot of cases too, like there's a lot of guys that are quite weak.
Is it threatening? Is it threatening?
For sure. To a lot of guys, it's very weak, and they're weak men, and they get very threatened by their wife having any sort of power. So if she starts to make money, particularly if she makes more, we see this happen in our BMS programs with our natural beauty raw artists.
Yeah.
Where like we have artists who are making double or triple what their husbands
Yeah,
are.
but it does kind of fuck with the relationship.
It
a little
completely
bit. So
fucks
what
with
do
the
you
relationship.
like? Where do you go? What do you?
Well, that's why I think a lot of guys don't want their wives to make money, because it's easier to just if a woman controls sex and money. It leaves a guy in a very interesting place. A guy's got to be very confident and certain as a man.
I make money, but you make more than me.
Well, my target's to make 10 times more than you all the time.
So is that what your goal was? Like,
yes.
That, like you were like,
yes.
my wife can produce, but damn it, if she outproduces me.
Yeah, it's not
so
happening.
Maybe do you have
Ever.
a story of feeling like if I was outproducing you, would that be hard?
It's not happening. So
okay, but I'm just asking you to put yourself.
I'm telling
in
you
those
right now,
shoes.
it's not happening. So we don't have to worry about that.
Okay, so let me ask you this then: do you hold my business back, which is also your business back, because you don't want it to outproduce anything that Warrior does, even though it's not just my business anymore? Because you will always say, you know, tonight we've just talked about the salon and we've just talked about BMS, and I'm like, I got pissed last week, and I was like, motherfucker, they're not just my businesses.
Wasn't last week, it was 2 days ago.
But I was like, it was our businesses. So don't tell me that we sat here and talked about me the whole night. We talked about
then why would you say
us.
that I'm sabotaging your businesses if they're our businesses?
That's what I was just thinking. I was wondering, would you ever allow...
But they're our businesses, so why would I sabotage my business?
Right. So would you allow BMS...
Which are our businesses,
Hey, don't
which
cut
sound
me
like
off
your
because you feel
businesses.
uncomfortable. I know how you go. Don't do your evil laugh. Be honest.
What?
Do you let BMS and DKW rise... Do you always make sure it's like below Warrior? Like,
well, here's
would
what I
you
can
let
tell
it
you.
like if it had the opportunity to like the numbers came out and
it was
would you
bigger?
push it? Yeah, would you push
Sure.
it more?
Sure.
Okay.
But right now it can't because both of these companies feed off the systems that I learned inside of my other companies. And half my teams have to support those companies to even grow.
Like, just thinking about this, like,
yes.
would you ever like not allow it to surpass it if it had the opportunity to? Because in a way, you like that control.
For sure, I like the control.
So then every guy likes the control. But
I don't hold you back from making money. I just always make 10 times more.
oh my God.
You can make as much as you want. You can be the biggest
know what?
producer you
And
want to be, but I'm going to make 10 times
and
more.
here's the thing. I realized, I was like...
Even if I have to be your Jay-Z to Beyonce
And
game
you know
and I have
what?
to own the company, then I'm like, good, she's the
and you
star
know
and I
what?
made 10 times more.
I'm cool with that because I don't want to deal with the stress that you deal with. Like, I deal with stress.
I deal with shitloads of stress.
Yeah, and I deal with stress a lot too, but the amount of stress that you deal with, I'm like, you deserve to make 10 times more than me because I'm not willing to take on that stress. So I'm cool with like, that's fine. That's great.
So we've come to a principle. Literally, this is the advice. When guys come to me and say, well, what should I do about my wife's business? I said, you should help her like crazy and help her build it. And then they said, okay, good. And I said, and here's your other thing. You have to make 10 times more than her. That's the principle.
So
I teach my top
hairstylists
producers.
that are like in their program.
And they're making $30,000
And then
a month?
And their husbands are like
$300,000 a month.
And their husbands are like employed, like don't even
Yes.
have the option to make
It's
that?
a hard game. And if their girls are honest, it fucks with the dynamic of their relationship.
I know.
There are a ton of we have a ton of Midwestern women inside of our Big Money Stylist programs, married to good men, good old boys from the Midwest here in the United States of America, and these men are not making more than $40,000 to $60,000 to $70,000 a year, and their artists, their wives, come into our programs and start making $25,000 a month.
Hairstylists and strippers.
Strippers and hairstylists on the Crazy Hot Matrix. You remember from last show? So, I'm just telling you, it creates issues, right? And so it takes a very strong man to be in a place where his wife makes more money than him. Because typically what ends up happening is you have a guy who will become more feminized. Now, I'm not saying that's all the time, but I'm saying you will tend to watch.
So
like
what advice
every
do you give
couple
to guys
I know,
in your program? If you have guys in your program and they're women's out producing, and what advice do you give to them?
become a better producer. Make more. I'm not kidding you.
Okay, but
Because literally in the dynamic of the game, women control sex.
What if
And
they
men
what if they
control
saw
money.
the opportunity in jumping in with their wife and helping them produce
Yes,
that?
and
Because
I encourage
think
that. I encourage that.
I think that
I
you
encourage
saw
that.
that even in my business. I was just like, I don't want to carry this stress,
Yeah.
this weight load. But you finally saw the potential of where even my business could go, and I think you finally took it on as like our business.
I did completely. I 100% agree. So there's a harmony in this when you allow. But there was times where you were rising and you were making money, and I was like, oh man. And you know what? There was actually a phase 2 where you're rising and making money. I was like, good. Hopefully she makes money, and then she leaves me and finds a guy that's better.
Oh, such
better
a
than
victim.
me. Better than me. I was a victim. I agree with you.
Well, it's a good thing you snapped out of that.
Good thing you snapped out of that.
Is that the end of our show?
It appears it is.
Okay. Tune in every week.
Do you know what I?
for,
Do you know what I had fun? I had
shenanigans.
fun playing something on the last show. I'm going to play something on this show.
What?
I'm going to take all of my
You're gonna play
guys.
Pearl Jam?
No,
Why
stop!
are you listening to
stop!
Pearl Jam?
Why, stop! I'm going to take
How
all
old
of
are
my
you?
guys. I'm 42. I'm taking all my guys back to the day in today's show. Here it is. Hold on.
Well, no, you can't. If you play that, they'll take it down.
Yes.
You can't. They'll take it down. And that's a wrap.
Yes, my friends.
You can't play
Back
music.
in the day. I'm going to sing it. This is going to be a Garrett cover album. Here it comes.
I know the words.
Do you? Sing them with me. Here it comes. Here it comes. Here it comes. You know it?
I think.
I
don't know it.
She said, have I got a little story for you? What you thought was your daddy
All
was
right.
nothing but why? All right, we are wrapping this show up. A little Pearl Jam at the end there. A little sing-along. It brings to an end of the Date Your Wife podcast. If you are not currently accessing the Warrior Book, gentlemen, we'd encourage you to get over there, warriorbook.com. Pick that up. We'd love to start teaching you on the Warrior's Way. Also, Be the Man available on Amazon if you need to start there. As far as this show, it is a wrap. We will see you next week here on the BMS and not the BMS.
You can also go to dkwsang.com. It's my blog where I post a repeat of all of my podcasts, plus fashion, hair, and all that good stuff.
The end. We'd like to thank our sponsors, Pearl Jam, for the song Alive.
And Chick-fil-A.
They didn't sponsor us. And Chick-fil-A for our drinks and our chicken sandwiches. The end. We will see you guys next week.